Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's doing good today. I started off the morning pretty excited and got some really good news. So let's just get right on into it. So I released two videos in the last 7 days, and I kind of want to go over some of the details that I either omit or maybe didn't go deep enough into. So we're going to check out those videos. And then there's been some more development specifically with this Doja Cat situation. So for those of you who don't know already, Doja Cat's mother filed what's called a temporary restraining order, an injunction and protection from her son, Ramen. Now, here's the thing about temporary restraining orders. Now, I recently had to get a restraining order from an individual in Florida because she continued to threaten and harass me and made threats against family members as well. Since I was able to file my restraining order, I've gotten limited protection, and we'll see what happens in the coming months. As things develop, I'll keep you guys in the know about that. But getting back to Doja Cat. So, for you to be able to file a temporary restraining order, you need the following. Number one, the person has to have done multiple events within the last 365 days that merits some level of protection. So, it wasn't just one incident, and it had to be within a 365-day time period. So, she can't bring up some shit that happened years ago or a couple of years ago, or even anything that was more than a year ago. All of the events must have transpired in the last year, and they must have been pretty damning for her to be able to obtain that level of protection. Now, with the temporary restraining order, it only protects her. For Doja Cat to get any protection, she would have to file her own temporary restraining order. It's interesting that her mother tried to get protection for Doja under her temporary restraining order. What that tells me is that Doja Cat's mother still kind of views her as a child in a way. She hasn't realized that she can't really make decisions for Doja. And she definitely can't get protection from her brother unless Doja pursues it on her own. That tells me a lot about this family. It tells me that there's been chaos in this household for a very long time. So we're going to start off by checking out my video. I'll stop it in a couple of places. It's a short one, so we can really just dissect the information. And I want to go over this recent video of her brother because I felt like that was pretty telling. So we're going to go ahead and share this. And I'm assuming my audio is doing what it needs to do. You never know. And this should be a pretty short stream. We're not going to be here too long. First off, let me deactivate the music for a second. There we go. All right, let's get into it.
Doja Cat's mother has revealed that Doja is being physically and verbally abused by her brother. This was revealed in newly surfaced court documents. According to new legal documents that have been obtained by the press, Doja's mom, Deborah Elizabeth Sawyer, filed for a temporary restraining order against her 30-year-old son, Rahman. And in her filing, she makes some serious accusations. Doja's mom lists Doja as another person who needs protection from Rahman. And the reason for this is that Doja's mom claims Doja's had her teeth knocked out by her brother.
So, as I mentioned earlier, mother pursued some protection for Doja Cat. She wasn't able to obtain it. The protection only protects her from Ramen. But it is noted that Ramen has a history of abuse against other family members. That's going to be a strong tool to use against him if they're really trying to pursue legal protection from him. It doesn't look like Doja Cat at this moment is trying to get protection, but that could change in the coming weeks. Now, this is a prime example of how your family can be your biggest haters. Pop star Doja Cat was apparently physically assaulted by her brother, 30-year-old Ramen. Doja Cat's mother, Deborah Elizabeth Sawyer, filed a temporary restraining order against her 30-year-old son. There was a reason why I selected these pictures because we don't know what's going on in our household. I want people to realize that these two are siblings. This is their family. So like I know a lot of times people become, I don't know, the peanut gallery, and we like to point and laugh and say, "Hey, look at this dysfunctional family." But these are real people. They have real things going on, and honestly, I hope they work it out. I really do. After he apparently physically assaulted his sister, knocking out some of her teeth, apparently. But that's not all that's been going on. Apparently, he was using some of the most vulgar, hateful language against his sister.
Doja's mom also alleges Raman's given Doja cuts and bruises and destroyed and stolen some of Doja's property. In the docs, Doja's mother claims Raman is also verbally abusive toward his famous sister in a very degrading and demeaning manner. She has also
I want to put a pin in this because remember when Doja Cat was in those spaces, those alt-right spaces, and they were using some of the worst kind of racialized language against her, and she was getting off on it. It leads me to believe that she was in a household where that happened a lot. I mean, if your own brother is hitting you and cussing you out and making you feel less than, and you don't really have a mother who knows how to really deal with it, then what? Like you become conditioned to some level of abuse. Sometimes people even internalize this kind of abuse, and they feel like it's the best that they can do, or it's acceptable, or it's something to just tolerate. So a lot of people are upset with Doja Cat because she was in those spaces. But what kind of trauma did she experience before she started seeking out these alt-right anti-black spaces for entertainment and attention and validation?
said that the brother has made Doja feel unsafe and traumatized. As for her own safety, Doja's mom alleges Raman physically abused her and threatened her multiple times over the past year, claiming the most recent incident happened earlier this month.
To me, it's screaming jealousy. And at the same time, we don't know exactly what's been going on in their household. But anytime you feel like it's okay to punch out your sister, chances are you have some type of emotional regulation issues. Now, the details are still pretty sketchy, but I wonder, let's unpack that a little bit more because that's facts. Like, look, there's family members I just don't fuck with and they don't fuck with me, and it's totally fine. I'm not losing any sleep, and I don't think they're losing any sleep either. But what we don't do is punch each other out when we see each other. Like that's not something you do. And the fact that in his 30s, she's almost 30 herself, this is how they communicate. This has been going on for a minute. This has been going on for a minute. And this is what we do know about Doja Cat and her family. She has an African father who was not evolved in her life, not in any way, shape, and form involved in her child rearing. And according to her, they still don't have a relationship. So she already came to the world feeling like she wasn't really valued by the male family members. And you can add the layer of confusion when you're dealing with someone who is mixed race and you have a whole side of the family that you don't know anything about. Doja Cat has another sibling who's biracial, but they have a different father, which also gets my attention. It makes me wonder, does your mother have some kind of a fetish? It's one thing to like fall in love with someone and you just fall in love and it is what it is. But to kind of seek out just black men to procreate with, I don't know. It's giving a little bit of a fetish. And if you have a parent who is more interested in fetishization, they may not be that focused on what's important and what's necessary to raise kids who are mixed race. I spoke to a friend of mine. She doesn't have any mixed race kids. She has all white kids. But we were talking about some of the things that I've experienced in these last couple of years in these spaces. And one thing she said was if she ever had mixed race kids, she would have made it a point to understand the black community a little bit more or and have their kids around them because that is half of who they are. And to kind of isolate them from that and expect them to be okay is irresponsible and damaging. Like who lays down and has mixed race kids and then tries to keep them away from half of who they are? Like that's going to cause chaos anyway. So she made a very good point, and I hope people think about that going forward. Like you can't just have these children just because you think they're aesthetically beautiful and then keep them away from their culture because what happens, and from what I can see from my own experiences in my life and from stories I've heard from others, it can be a big problem and people will have identity issues well into their 30s and 40s. So something to think about. wonder, do all three of these adults live together? That could also create a very chaotic
They do.
dynamic when you have two adult children living with you still, especially when one adult child is making the most money and really is the source of all the income. Rumor has it Ramen. Let's not sleep on that. Doja Cat is the one making all the money. So if you have a brother who I think also has a hostility towards women, word on the curb is he has 3 children that he doesn't take care of. So he doesn't sound like the best guy in the world, and he's reliant on these women to take care of him because he's living technically in his mother's home with his very rich, successful sister, and he's just nothing. So I can only imagine that's eating away at his ego. So the only way that he can, show that he has dominance or power is through violence. Has 3 children that he apparently abandoned. But bear in mind, all of this stuff is relatively new to the internet, and you know how it gets when things get on the internet. Speaking of which, Nicki Minaj fans have come out of the woodwork talking shit. See, this is why people don't like Nicki Minaj. She has literally the worst fan base. It's like they come out of nowhere to hardy har at someone else's failures or their shortcomings, or in this case, their abuse. I remember when there was alleged beef between Nicki Minaj and Rihanna, and people used to mock Rihanna online because of her. Yes, I remember this era. This was quite the era. There was a very like low key beef between these two. Um, if you want to get an idea of how low key it was, there was a song that Sierra did with Nicki Minaj, and if you guys know anything about music history, especially in that time period, Sierra and Rihanna had a very tense relationship, and Nicki Minaj was busting shots at Rihanna through this song. You know how Nicki gets; she likes to attack people through music. So this was one of those low key beefs, and you really saw how nasty the Nicki Minaj fans were. They were reposting photos of Rihanna beat up and just the worst people ever. Her history of abuse with Chris Brown. And when I say people, I mean Nicki Minaj fans. Luckily, a very nice Doja Cat fan reminded those Nicki Minaj fans that Nicki Minaj's brother is a whole child molester. So they should probably stay quiet. It's not uncommon for family members to have feuds. What is uncommon is for a brother in his 30s to knock out his 27-year-old sister. In fact, the last time me and my sister got in a physical confrontation, I think I was like 11 and she was like 14. People have criticized, and for the record, she got washed. Like for the longest, she used to beat me and my sister up because my youngest sister, she's like 2 years younger than me. She's not my youngest anymore, but at the time she was the youngest, and my sister's 3 years older than me. So like she was just a monster in that house. But oh, when puberty kicked in, oh, she stopped trying to fight me because them hands hit like Mayweather. But we've never had any physical confrontation since I was a preteen and she was a teenager. The idea that people are still beating up their siblings when they're in their 30s and shit, wild. Besides Doja Cat, because she seems to be very distant from men of color. But could that have something to do with her experience growing up with her very abusive brother? Because if at age 30 he's balling his fist and punching her in the face, I can only imagine what he was like when they were kids. And having a father who was not involved in any of her child rearing, development, and even her adulthood probably influences her opinion of men of color. I'm not saying that gives her more context. The father, he rebuffs these, reports that he's not involved in her life and he hasn't seen her in years and things like that. I ain't seen any pictures of them together. So he can say what he want to say, but according to her, he wasn't involved and still isn't involved. And you got to be real fucked up to have a whole family member, a whole child out there that you just have nothing to do with, not because they did anything or there was some type of, you know, family crime that they committed, just on the strength of you don't care. You got to be real fucked up to live like that. An excuse for being in chat rooms with Nazis, letting them call her the N-word and all that weird stuff, but it does give some context into her behavior. Ultimately, I hope things work itself out, because anytime celebrities take situations like this to the legal system, that means it's gotten out of control. And I hope Doja does everything that she needs to do to protect herself. You do not have to take it on the chin, literally or proverbial, even when it's your own family. Let's normalize canceling family members if you feel as though they've crossed lines, if they've hurt you, if they've hurt your kids. It's okay to say, hey, it's a wrap. I don't need to be involved with you. I don't need to communicate with you. You don't bring anything to the equation. You only bring heartache. So I definitely understand her position if she goes down that route. She also strikes me as a person that doesn't like confrontation. So she may not speak on this at all. She may never give an official statement. She may just, pretend like it didn't happen. Good news for her though, she's going to be headlining Coachella. And, I sold my Coachella tickets last year, which I'm glad that I did because Frank Ocean, he's a disgrace. Like, I got a video on him. He's a fucking disgrace. But in any event, she is one of the headliners of Coachella. So, professionally speaking, Doja Cat's in a really good space. Personally, that's up for her to decide if she's in a good space or not. So, let me show you what the brother had to say. See, the brother, in my opinion, I don't think he handled this very well. I don't think he handled this very well at all.
What's going on, bro? How are you? Any word on what's going on with you and your sister and your family? They're saying that, you knocked her teeth out. That's the accusation. The singer, Doja Cat?
No. Have you got anything to say to your mother? Or not? No, what about your sister? Have you spoken to her about these allegations? Any reaction to the restraining order against you?
No, I have no restraining order against me.
Are you denying what happened?
Yeah.
So you did not hit your sister, you did not knock out her
I
teeth?
haven't seen anybody in years, bro. What are you talking about?
So what happened? What's the story?
There's no story.
At least have your side out there,
Is it true you got violent with your mother?
No.
All right, we're gonna play that again in a little bit, but I kind of want to. I'm on the fence about if this was a good idea or this was a bad idea. Number one, when a situation like this happens, most celebrities know, and he's not a celebrity, I get it. They know to kind of go underground for a little bit to stay off the streets, stay out of the public because of this very reason. Paparazzi's going to roll up on you. And now they don't even need a whole camera setup like back in the 2000s. They can just roll up on you with their phones. And you saw what just happened there. They're going to ask the pertinent questions and they're not going to give a shit about your feelings. And frankly, I don't think people should give a shit about his feelings. If what is alleged is true, and I believe it is, he doesn't deserve any grace or any sympathy. None whatsoever. Here's the thing, though, that I want to point out. Let's check this out again.
What's going on, bro? How are you? Any word on what's going on with you and your sister and your family? They're saying that, you knocked her teeth out. That's the accusation. The singer, Doja Cat?
No.
First lie. What I would have said is, look, sir, I don't know who you are. I feel like you're encroaching in my space. I'm a private citizen. You need to back the fuck up or I'm going to call the police. Plain and simple. But to sit there and say you don't know who Doja Cat is, like that's not your whole sister. Well, I guess your half sister. It's like, bruh, like you've already lost here because you're starting up with a lie. You could have definitely expressed that these people need to back up out of your boundaries and going about your business. But you start with the lies.
Have you got anything to say to your mother? Or not?
No.
What about your sister? Have you spoken to her about these allegations? Any reaction to the restraining order against you?
No, I have no restraining order against me.
Are you denying what happened?
Yeah.
Initially, he said he didn't know what they were talking about, but now he's denying it. It's like he clearly doesn't have a lawyer. Nobody sat down to explain to him how to handle the media. Nothing. They just let him out there.
You did not hit your sister. You did not knock out her
I haven't
teeth.
seen anybody in years, bro. What are you talking about?
And this is another one of those lies that are just so easily like disproven. For her to be able to obtain a restraining order, even a temporary restraining order, there has to be activity in the last 365 days. No comment. That's all you got to say. No comment. No comment. And keep it moving.
So what happened? What's the story?
There's no story.
At least have your side out there, you know?
Is it true you got violent with your mother?
He's lying. Yeah, he's just used to doing that shit. He's used to beating up women. He's used to not being held accountable for it. And then when some men rolled up on him and called it exactly what it was, he got all mousy and denied everything. And his voice got all soft and shit. I'm like, I'm confident when you was cussing out Doja Cat and knocking her in the face, you wasn't using that mousy little voice. So for me, whatever happens to him happens. I hope they get the necessary protection that they need. A person like this, though, family or not, you got to watch out for a person like this. It's giving Yolanda Saldivar. It's giving, you're famous and I'm a nobody. It's giving, I hate women, but I have to live off of them because I don't want to do shit for myself. It's giving those kind of vibes. And you got to watch out for people like this. So, next topic. Let's get into this Lil Nas X situation and only briefly talk about it because I feel like I did a much better analysis of his situation than I did with Doja. I kind of briefly went through that one. I think Lil Nas X is in a weird position because now he's lost his relevancy. And whether the older generation want to acknowledge it or not, the Zoomers, the Zillennials, they were more open-minded to his music. They were somewhat treating him like a real musician. Millennials, Gen X, we made no better, but like they took him serious or more serious than we did. But now they're over it as well. It seems like they are annoyed by his behavior. They don't feel like his music is even worth acknowledging. And now he's trying to, I don't know, revamp himself, but it all looks the same to me. It looks like somebody trying to get attention with the same dumb antics. Like, dude, we've seen you in drag. That shit isn't really that shocking. Like, we saw Holiday Heart. Like, Ving Rhames, his portrayal in Holiday Heart, I would argue, was more relevant in the Black gay community than your entire career. Because at least with that movie, it was changing the narrative on gay Black men, even drag queens, whereas you are just feeding into the worst narratives, like literally the worst. At first, I was a little on the fence about the idea of Lil Nas X trying to groom kids because I feel like that term is used in a very malicious way. But now that I'm really looking at his entire career and the sharp shift from, just rapping about horses and shit. And I'm not saying Old Town Road was a song that had no issues. It was a song about, had sex, drugs, all kinds of stuff in it. And I'm not trying to say that that was meant for kids, but he was definitely promoted to children in a way that was not the same for Travis Scott or any of the other rappers around his age. So that's something that we really need to pay attention to. And to go from performing at these schools to blowing Satan basically in a damn music video, like that's a hard shift. Yes, Holiday Heart. That was a great movie. that was a great movie. First of all, shout out to Ving Rhames. Not even just for this movie. Ving Rhames he's a beast. That's one of my favorite actors. Ving Rhames, I've not seen him do a bad performance. Like there's certain people who like Denzel, like you're gonna get a good performance. But let's get into this little video because he has a documentary coming up. Let me show you guys this. It's on HBO, and I want y'all to look at these figures because Lil Nas X used to get millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of views. They were all over him for a little bit. And I think it's because he had a deal that really promoted him. He got a lot of spam fucking views. It was definitely inflated. But look at these numbers on his documentary. He just released the trailer. And where are the views? $15K. And this is the official HBO website. Official HBO channel. $15K. They don't give a fuck about this. They don't care about this documentary, and they don't care about his music anymore. Or whoever was sponsoring him, promoting him, they've decided there's nothing left to promote. But let's look at this vamped ass documentary and let's see if there's anything to consume. I don't think there is, but let's see.
Okay. Some people think my music is dope. Some people see me as like this satanic devil. But me,
2 seconds in, you're automatically like shown him in some level of undressed. Like, it's like, dude, we can't take you serious. Like, if this was any other rapper, any other musician, do you think they would be in their underwear in the beginning? Even, I would think Ice Spice, if they were doing a real documentary on Ice Spice, the first angle you wouldn't get is from her ass. They would probably take it seriously. He's not taking it serious, so why should we take it seriously?
when I was a kid, my sexuality was just like the elephant in the room. I started getting bad like anxiety attacks. Coming out was very important to progress. Just put out early channel mode. I'm gonna hit y'all back a year from now. We gonna see where I'm at. My mind is hardwired since a kid. When you fuck up, you have to quit the whole thing. I feel like there's something brewing that's gonna be so amazing. I trust that feeling.
Baby bet, hey, couple racks, hey.
I'm not like able to be 100% around like family members.
Couple Grammys on him, couple plaques, hey.
I feel like there's a lot of things that people may want to say but don't. I'm always just trying to challenge the way my family like looks at things. I'm gonna teach my nephews to not be homophobic. Hey y'all. Don't be homophobic.
Okay.
So many queer people are making these huge strides, but it's a fight.
Hello, family.
It's like crazy to walk out in front of like both sides of your family in like this little skirt.
What's up, Dad?
And this one is for the champion. I ain't lost since I've been.
Okay, I think we get it. I think we get it. This is like, did we learn anything interesting about him? Because honestly, there's just another couple of seconds of him, like, dancing around in a skirt. Like, does this feel like an intimate portrait of who he is as a person, where he came from, how he creates his music? Because that's usually what these musical documentaries are. Like, it's supposed to be a deep dive into who they are as people and as musicians and how those two intersect. This is just him prancing around the girl outfits again. I'm gonna be honest with you, like I said in the video, we've seen this shit before, and we've seen it from more interesting people. There's a lot of controversy about black men in dresses, even though just as many white and prominent white actors, sports figures, comedians have done drag, but people like to pretend like it's only black people and they're being forced to wear dresses and want. And this is a prime example of a man who wants to wear this shit. He wants to do it because it gets some attention. Same thing that Dennis Rodman did 30 something years ago. The difference between Dennis Rodman and Lil Nas X, as I mentioned in my previous video, is Lil Nas X is not that great of a musician, and he's not really known for being a musician. And even though Dennis Rodman was covered in antics, just antics, you couldn't pretend like he wasn't a great NBA player. Like, that was the duality of Rodman. He was a fucking crazy clown off the field and a beast, well, not on the field, but on the court, and a beast on the court. Like, it's just, there wasn't the same thing here. You got a situation where you have a person whose music is not really taken seriously, and he's just 90% antics. I don't think people are into antics in 2024. I think the era of antics is just, I think that's done. I honestly think it is. And Thankfully so. Like, if you only have antics and nothing else to bring to the equation, then you're not really an artist. You're just not. There's nothing artistic about antics. Well, it is, I think I've been going for a little over 30 minutes. I think I'm going to call it a day. I have some things that I need to get to. It's been a crazy, not even a whole month in 2024. So much has happened. So much has happened. And I'm very, very excited about the changes in my channel. A lot of content creators who are interested in working with me. I'm interested in working with them. There's been a lot of people trying to sabotage the growth, but they can't. And I want to thank you guys for joining me. You have a great day.